I hope everybody is having a wonderful afternoon. This is Atmospheric Alex here with another U.S. weather forecast here. And today's will be about the severe weather concerns in the northern U.S. and the tropical weather concerns that are going to continue in the Atlantic and maybe perk up after waiting so long. The first thing I would like to do is go over the severe weather chances for the northern U.S. here. So we're taking a look at our GFS model at our storm energy. That is essentially what surface-based CAPE means, is how much energy is stored in the atmosphere for these storms to thrive. And we're going to continue through time. We're going to be looking through next week mostly here, as you can see. As we get into Saturday, we have a lot of storm energy beginning to build here. And I would also like to note everything in your hatched area here, your hashed area, is essentially convective inhibition, otherwise known as capping. What capping does is it provides a warm and dry layer of the atmosphere just above where storms are forming, which will prevent clouds from getting too tall and from storms to really fire off. So let me kind of show you how this works. You have your big updraft here that's ready to go up, but you have your warm, dry layer right here above it. Your clouds are going to begin to rise faster, 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 and they're going to hit this layer and they're not going to go any further. So it might push it up a little bit, but it cannot get through this particular air layer here. So there's not expected to be any storms on Saturday at the moment. Now I'd say Sunday is a bit of a different story. You could still see some of your capping, but a lot more storm energy begins to fire off here across portions of southern Minnesota and northern Iowa. This is where storms could end up getting going. And we're even going to take a look here. Take a look at this little area that is not in your hatched area. This is in central Minnesota, where it appears your mid-levels will be cool and moist enough to sustain severe weather. Because remember, storms will be able to break through that now that there is no limiting factor. Now we're going to look at Monday here just to see what it's looking like, and it's a little bit far out, but we could see a large swath of storm energy here across a widespread area. We're talking about southwestern Wisconsin, much of Iowa, southeastern Nebraska, it looks like as well, portions of far northeastern Kansas, maybe even Missouri, and some of Illinois as well on your western edge, and eastern Missouri as well, where energy could take place. But notice you do have a bit of a capping here. Notice your hatched lines, especially some of your more darker blue lines within here. This is heavy capping, and storms will not be able to break through that air layer, which means not much severe weather is expected on Monday, unlike Sunday. So let's take a look at your future simulated reflectivity precipitation from your GFS model. And we're going to go through our main time frame here. This is going into Saturday. And like I said, you have a lot of storm energy here, but notice how there just isn't a drop of rain anywhere. Nothing really going on here. Again, your warm and dry air layer will prevent storms from forming that specific day. But as we move into Sunday, it'll be a different story. You could see here some discrete supercells begin to fire off here in a very favorable environment, it looks like, heading into Sunday evening. And we're going to advance this one more frame forward here into more of the nighttime hours. You could just see definitely some interesting storms here that are going to be moving across central Minnesota and even into portions of Canada there as well. So the main threats out of these storms right now look to be damaging winds, some large hail, and definitely a tornado risk as well that needs to bear watching. And pushing this one more frame out, we can now see that Minneapolis is going to be in the direct target of this storm here, which will be moving eastward. We cannot tell exactly where these are going to form from the exact placement, but we do know that there will be some coverage of storms in that specific region here. Now going into Monday here, we see more thunderstorm development. This is not surprising at all. Even further south here, this looks to be a nice Boeing segment of wind. So, could be talking about maybe a mesoscale convective system issue or even a quasi-linear convective system issue. Long story short, those things both produce straight line damaging winds typically, and even a bit of an embedded tornado risk as well. And this really begins to bunch up here into a fairly significant storm. Again, all eyes, mainly northern US, Midwest, need to really watch this closely. We're now going to take a look at our GEFS mean supercell composite. This is all the energy that is available for supercells, and you could see here for Saturday, we have a large swath of favorability here if it wasn't for your convective inhibition, which again is going to prevent storm formation across these areas. But if there wasn't, you would definitely have some supercellular concerns across some of these areas here. Now as we move into Sunday, you'll see a much more concentrated corridor here of supercell composite, but because you won't see as much convective inhibition, storms will likely form in this environment, and I would even say it's a little bit far out to say this. You definitely do not want to fully rule out a strong tornado risk as well in this specific type of environment here. And these conditions quickly diminish into the overnight hours. And up next, we're going to be moving on to part 2 of the video, which will be dealing with our tropical weather activity. So, this is probably what you all have been waiting for here. I know I certainly have been. This is your current look at your sea surface temperatures here across the entire Atlantic. Look at how bubbly hot it is right now across portions of the northern western Caribbean into the Gulf of Mexico. Talking about sea surface temperatures in the upper 80s to near low 90s at this point. It's just absolutely out of control at this point. And, if any systems were to form here, track up into this area, oh boy, you would be having some issues there. But let's kind of zoom out a little and take a look at all this right here. You're probably wondering, well, why are the sea surface temperatures so cool across Bermuda right now? This is because of Ernesto that just went through these areas. We're talking about sea surface temperatures, in the low to even mid 70s here. Ooh, gosh, that's a little chilly, isn't it, for tropical systems to form? And I do expect this to have some implications on our atmospheric environment here, as we will see in just a moment. So currently, right now, from what the data I've been looking at, we currently have a large high-pressure system across these areas here. Nothing new. We've been seeing this all summer long. It's been going, back and forth again. It hasn't been able to make up its mind. Because this is over a cooler patch of waters, it's a little bit upset right now, and it's going to want to migrate off to the east and to this warmer patch of waters over here. And this is going to have some implications. We were thinking that, every single system is going to track west, west the whole season. I am starting to kind of disagree with that. That was because of Ernesto here, again, messing up the pattern even further than what Debbie did just a week ago, or even further ago than that. With your high-pressure anticyclone all the way out here to the east, your systems are going to have a tendency to go west, but then recurve. But if they develop too far south, they're going to go west and then slowly recurve into areas that do not need any tropical development or tropical impacts from that matter at this point. Now let me show you this map for a second. Take this in. This is our ocean heat content map. This is basically how much energy is stored in the ocean, how far down this heat goes. So, I want you to take a look at this. It's all off the charts across the Caribbean. So, what I'm trying to say is we have a lot of energy out there, very high sea surface temperatures, very high ocean heat content values, even into the Gulf here. And I'm going to get you a little bit of a more zoomed in view onto this as well. If you all are wondering, we currently have ocean heat content values here across some portions of the northwestern Caribbean, across these areas, upwards of, get this, 220 to 230 in isolated pockets. Wow. You really do not want a tropical system to track through that, because let me tell you, these values we're seeing right now are totally historic and have never been seen before. I don't mean to start hyping or raising my voice or anything, but this is definitely going to cause significant issues here. And if you don't believe me, take a look at this chart here. This is for the whole Caribbean, the ocean heat content values, and this is 2024 right here in this lighter red shade here. As you can see, we have been soaring up further and further and further, and now we're currently dealing with the highest ocean heat content values at this time frame in recorded history. Now, I will note that 2023's line down here did take a huge spike upwards, and especially for peak season, went way up here. And, I just noticed something. This line, how far up north this is, this was mid-October, and we're only right now in mid-August. I want you to let that sink in for a minute. We possibly have upwards of 2 more months of warming across these areas. So just wanted to keep that in mind. I actually didn't even notice this first go around, but that looks very significant, obviously. But the Gulf of Mexico is a bit of a different story. We're talking about heat content values that are just, they're about to go off the map entirely at this point. 2023 has got nothing on 2024. And just to give you a notice here, 2023's average ocean heat content was upwards of 75. 2024's ocean heat content is upwards of 85 as an average. Of course, you have areas that are hotter than that, but this is going to cause some issues later on this season, especially if we see our system start tracking further west rather than curving out to sea. We'll just have to wait, though. Alright, so the next thing I want to look at is your European Prediction System cyclone locations map. I'm going to try and be a little bit more calm on this. I don't want to freak anybody out, but this goes out 15 days, and you could start to see some of your waves here coming off of Africa at a relatively high latitude right here. These likely will not develop into anything as they go further west. They will be engulfed by dry air and very strong easterly wind shear right now that has been brought out by your African monsoon that has been very strong as of late. These waves will definitely die, as you can see, and we will begin to see some more coming off a higher latitude. Those will also die, but after that, you'll start to see some more vorticity areas kind of spinning off of Africa and taking some time to develop here as they enter into the main development region, where gradual development is definitely possible, maybe even a little more likely as we head, it looks like, especially into early September here. And I would like to note just how many members start to show development here. You get somewhat of a bit of an explosion here in the tropics here, especially northern main development region going into a bit of your Caribbean, your Lesser Antilles over here, Greater Antilles over here, even some of your Bahamas will definitely need to watch out closely. And you could see some of the stronger members here, some of your major hurricane members here in the purple shades here. So if anything does develop, it could be a little bit rapid. It just depends on the background state of the environment. Can we mix some of this dry air out that is coming from Africa at this point in time? And can we lessen this wind shear here across the main development region as well? It's also important to note where anticyclone is right here. Definitely a pancake flat anticyclone. Your high pressure is able to steer your systems a bit further off to the west. And to be fair, I'm not really seeing many out to sea tracks at the moment. So, late August, early September, we were thinking that the pattern was going to be a little more closer to our land areas up through here. And we've kind of been thinking this for a while now. So those areas there should really matter. Even a little further to the south of that as well in these areas, you should recommend monitoring it as well. Now to our GEFS cyclone locations map, we're going to see mostly the same exact thing with your waves coming off at a higher latitude. Notice how this model does want some activity to start a little bit earlier. It does tend to show more bullish development, which would make sense to the GEFS model here. And we could see this bullish development leading to a more southern bias, as it looks like here. You are staying further south of your anticyclone as you track through time. That is located right within here, pancake flat anticyclone, if you will. So you can see generally your overall flow pattern here, except these systems over here are not guaranteed to develop and move southward into the MDR. And especially if they don't, and they maybe form a little further north, you could see it possibly tracking a little further out to sea here. We'll keep our eyes glued on the models, though, for the time being. But this model in particular is certainly bringing the heat here for the Greater Antilles, Bahamas, and, even if you're in Florida, I would recommend watching a little bit as well, as you have a lot of members here down to 960 to even 950 millibars. This is potentially a stronger hurricane here. So with all this agreement, I have a feeling something will pop up on the radar here, probably August 28th. That's when I think we will ring the bell and we'll see significant uptrends and see our first system on the map that we have seen in quite some time. But with that being said, thank you all so much for tuning into today's video. If you did enjoy, please feel free to hit the like button, share with your friends and family, and even subscribe below. I would greatly appreciate it, as it would help grow my little corner of the weather community. And also, just a quick little side note on this thumbnail, I'm not really trying to hype here, but I think at some point this season you'll probably see something coming into view of the Bahamas and Florida. It's pretty much climatology, so just kind of keep that in mind. You also see our out to sea tracks out here as well, so please don't take this as me hyping, and even if I am, I'm trying to work on that a little bit further. And anyways, I will see you all in the next video. Take care and have a wonderful afternoon.